Welcome into a Tuesday, November 18th edition of Daily Faceoff Live. Tyler Yaremchuk, Carter Hutton with you. And as always, we are looking for your inbox questions over on the Daily Faceoff YouTube chat. Hit us up over there. We are also a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Huts, how you doing on a Tuesday? What do we got on the picture behind you today?
It's my big dog, Harvey. He's passed away now, but it's a good photo. Hey, it's I don't know, each day maybe we'll get a vote going in the chat there. What photo I should put up on the backdrop here? Because each day I don't know. I got chirped that one day. I'm a little sensitive to it now. I thought I got over that with all the abuse I took playing for the Buffalo Sabres, but now I'm trying to pick the right photo for the show, my man.
Shout out to Tage fan in the chat who says, I went to the Sabres game last night, and hey, what a game it was to go to for the Buffalo Sabres. They put up 5 on the Edmonton Oilers, and Buffalo all of a sudden creeping back a little bit closer to 500, and I'm sure Sabres fans will get a kick out of the fact that they're now tied in the standings with the Toronto Maple Leafs. More on the Toronto Maple Leafs a little bit later on. Brad Treliving spoke to the media. Jeff Marek is our big segment today. We'll get into a couple of different areas with Jeff Marek, but first, let's kick off the show by talking about one of the other struggling Canadian teams. You can kind of point your finger to the Oilers, the Canucks, the Leafs, or the Habs, who have lost their 4th straight game. They've actually lost 5 of their last 6 Huts. In terms of a concern meter, a panic level, where do you think Montreal Canadiens fans should be right now?
I think it's like mid-grade 5 here, just with the way the goaltending's been, right? Like Sam Montembeault is almost unplayable at times, right? It's been so bad. And again, you look at a guy like, it's different if you're humming around like 900, you're not getting saves. Like when you got an 858 save percentage, I don't care what you're giving up, you're not getting the job done. Like elite guys can, mask that. And Jakub Dobeš has been very good. He's kind of fell off a little bit. He has 2 overtime games and a loss in his last 3 after starting 6-0. So it is concerning. And what's concerning to me is you have a bunch of young guys. There is some leadership in there, but when the boat gets rocky, who's going to guide them out of this? And obviously Martin St. Louis has done a great job. They dealt with this last year. And I do think that they can come back from this, but when you look at that standings in the Atlantic now, teams are nipping at them, right? Like things are close, right? You look at the Montreal Canadiens, again, 19 games, they have 23 points, and behind them, the Sens with 22, the Panthers with 21, and the Lightning with 20. Like it feels like now you need to kind of straighten this out because you don't want to start to fall behind. And I feel right now it is a little bit of that, just not lack of urgency, but I think they need to play a little bit of a more desperate style of play right now to make sure that they keep going as the season moves on here.
I think that's kind of a common theme with a handful of teams around the NHL is like it's in November and it's not the dog days of the season. Like we're not in January here, but it's been a very compressed schedule to start the year. And I feel like there's a lot of teams who are maybe fighting it a little bit. They can't find that level of desperation that you need to compete on a nightly basis. For the Habs, I know a lot of people are going to point to the injuries. I don't love that because yes, I agree. They're missing a lot of players. And when you look at the fact that their 4th line played 9 minutes last night and they don't really trust them all that much, you can say that the injuries have taken off a layer of depth. Line A, Newhook, and Kirby Dach, who when you have all 3 of those guys, everything just slots a little bit better in your forward group. But, every team goes through injuries. And I think if you're going to use that as a crutch or whatever for the Habs, it's like, sure, you're missing 4 regular players. And like, yes, that stings. But none of those regular players are Suzuki or Caulfield or Demidov or Matheson or Dobson or Hudson or go down the list. Like your most important players are still there. I think what this stretch says for me about the Habs is, and the reason why I think I'm even lower than a 5 in terms of how concerned I am, I didn't think they were ever going to be a team who put up 110 points. And, I certainly didn't pick them to win the division this year. Like they're a young team still that's going to have to go through some growth spurts. Like I'm not sitting here saying they're not a playoff team, but I just never thought that they were a truly elite team yet in the NHL. They'll get there, but I'm not concerned right now because I just felt like this is what their season was going to be. There's going to be peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I think that's a consistent look. And I think for you to say that is fair, right? I think overachieving early has been huge. They've been probably arguably one of the most exciting teams to watch, like their brand of hockey. And I guess my concern with the fact is the way that they play. Like it's so run and gun. It's not like they just ground and pound you. So like when things get off, when you're playing a high power offense and you need to play that way, when things get off a little bit, you see it a lot, obviously in Edmonton as well. when you're running that kind of offense and it's off a little bit, it's a lot harder to sustain than a team that just dumps the puck in and grinds you down consistently. Where, with younger players, the emotion that goes into it, it gets a little trickier. But I do think there is upside to a lot of these younger guys getting this experience early in the year. And I think the compressed schedule comes into play because when you're trying to make adjustments on the fly, it's a lot harder now because you don't have that designated practice time to work on things. You're trying to teach guys how to change their game via video. And video is a great resource. It's helpful. But in today's day and age, just some quality time on the rink to get used to different systems and to make adjustments is harder than you think. Even though these kids are so young, it's a big adjustment for a lot of them.
And again, if the Habs need to learn these lessons early on, like that's fine. That again should have been expected coming into this season. But let's pivot into our second topic today, Carter. The Toronto Maple Leafs really don't have much of an excuse to be sitting here and having to learn the lessons that they're currently using. And for the podcast listeners, heavy emphasis on the finger quotation marks here. But Brad Treliving spoke to the media today amidst the Leafs 8-9-2 start to the season that again has them tied with the Buffalo Sabres in points percentage right now. And to give you sort of the Cole's Notes version of what he said, he's got all the faith in the world in the coaching staff. Doesn't seem to be, any sort of shade directed at Craig Berube here. He had a line that was, Berube didn't become a bad coach overnight. Talked about, wanting to make some changes, but he kind of said, you're not going to trade your way out of this mess, which I think is also fair with parity at the level it is in the NHL. There's not a lot of teams who are looking to just gift you a player and be like, hey, yeah, sure. You need a top 9 winger. I'll help you out here and trade you one for a mid-round pick. Like, it's firmly on those guys in the room to figure it out in Toronto and get them out of what we dubbed the quarter season crisis. When you look at the DFO lines here and you look at the blue line Huts, is that good enough for the Leafs? Is this a group that can play their way out of it?
My concern is not if it's good enough, is it quick enough, right? Like in a day and age now where you're seeing these young defensemen, especially their back end. And again, I get the additions that they made. They go out and trade for Brandon Carlo last year. The way that's gone, it hasn't been great. And then you add Nicholas Waugh and you add a few, Dakota Josh, some bigger bodies. You think about the Atlantic and you think about the grind that you're going to have to go through to get through. But all of a sudden, like, you don't really seem to have a team that has enough ability with those, their offensive defenseman is Morgan Riley, and he's played for the league for a long time. They don't have that young defenseman when we look at like Quinn Hughes and Hudson and Makar and now Schaefer, where like, who is the guy that is getting the puck up, making those plays? And the guy, their power play right now is buzzing at 26th in the league. Obviously Mitch Marner's gone. He's not coming back. But like, where does that offense come from? Again, there is that always battle I find in the NHL of like, you have to be good enough in the regular season to get in, but then you have to be built the proper way to win during the playoffs. And I feel like they've kind of put a little too much into that pot where right now in the regular season, they're not able to do that. And I think they're giving up so many good quality chances. And the goalie carousel that's been going on, hopefully Joseph Woll can step in tonight and play well, because I thought he was very good the other night against the Hawks. Unfortunate bounce on the last goal, a good tip. But that being said, Anthony Stolarz has not lived up to the hype, right? He signs the contract, he comes out, he calls his team out, and then he doesn't answer the bell. But that being said, last year they were top 5 when it came to slot shots, save percentage, and inner slot save percentage. Now they're in the bottom 5 of the league, and that just goes back to goaltending because the numbers aren't a lot higher. It's just the fact they aren't getting those high quality saves that they were last year, Tyler.
Third best team in the league in 5-on-5 goal scoring, 29th in the league in 5-on-5 save percentage. I mean, I'm sure Leafs fans don't want to hear it, and when things go bad in Toronto, fingers get pointed everywhere, but like, I feel like that's a lot closer to the song and dance I've seen in Edmonton the last couple of years, where like, because you aren't getting saves, and yes, defensively they are struggling, also banged up a little bit. Who isn't? Again, I can't use that as an excuse, but like, for years I saw a team in Edmonton that was actually scoring fine at 5-on-5, and then the special teams and the save percentage killed them, and they were losing games, and then everyone wanted to be like, well, it's all these other problems, when it's like, no, if you get a couple of saves, you probably win a few more hockey games. Which, to flip over to the other team we want to talk about in Canada, it's a Canada heavy show today. The Vancouver Canucks are under 500 as well. Another Canadian team who's sitting there, and the fan base is going, what the hell is happening? But for the Leafs, like, I think there needs to be a level of desperation to turn this around. I was talking to David Quadrelli, our friend from Canucks Army and Canucks Conversation, and he kind of laughed and was like, they need to rebuild. And I think a lot of Canucks fans are sitting there being like, you know what? maybe if we're just bad for a year, it's a blessing in disguise. And it teaches this organization that finally they need to change the way they're going about building this. Like, I don't think Vancouver salvages this season.
No, I don't think so either. I think the way things have gone, there was like that potential. And again, a lot of times we look at the past where, they're not far removed from being a really strong team and the potential that was there. And it kind of fizzles away quick, right? Just the same ideas in Toronto is like the core four run is over, right? Like it didn't happen. I feel like you're on to a new standpoint. When I look at the Vancouver Canucks, where are you at? You have a few good players. Yes, there's some key players there. Quinn Hughes, arguably one of the best defensemen in the league when he's healthy and when he's going. And Thatcher Demko, at that point, he's injured again. Like there's no sustainability there when he's hurt all the time, when he is your difference maker on a nightly basis and you paid him to be that, right? So again, I don't know where this team is going in a division that is only getting stronger when you look at some of the other teams taking that standpoint. When you look at the Anaheim Ducks, obviously a huge win last night. They're not going away. Like they're here to stay, in my personal opinion, again with Vegas and the Oilers. But Vancouver is in that situation where, at what point are you a year or two away and the San Jose Sharks are a much better hockey team than you,
Yeah, again, like they're not trending up the way other teams in this division are. And I think that's concerning. And this isn't even me like, talking out of two sides of my mouth or changing my tune. Like we said in our season preview shows, I was like, listen, that center depth isn't good to begin with. And if Philip Hedl gets hurt, which again, I hate the concussion stuff, but like it's a reality of who he is as a player. They were a Philip Hedl injury away from being dangerously thin down the middle. And Philip Hedl got hurt. And now you're running Pettersson, Max Sasson, David Kampf, and Atu Ratu as your four centermen. The West is good. You're not getting yourself back into the race in the West with those as your four centerman Huts. Again, plenty of teams right now with question marks around them. Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto, even Montreal, as we let off the show with. But I wanted to now kind of flip this conversation because we spent obviously 10 minutes now talking about teams who are looking to bounce back from tough starts. But let's drink a little Hater-ade on some teams who are doing well, Huts. And that, I have one picked out. I'll let you go first, though. Who's a team that's off to a good start this year that you're kind of looking at with a raised eyebrow, being like, I'm not buying what you guys are selling?
You know what? I say this tongue in cheek too, because I love them and I have a lot of relationship with players there, but it's a Seattle Kraken for me. I just look at this team and their depth and where they're at. You look at their scoring. Jaden Schwartz is having a great year. He's 33 years old, set to be an RFA. Jordan Eberle, 35 years old. He's second in scoring on the team. Like, where are your stars? Where are your guys that are going to be your difference maker? I know they signed those big contracts when you talk about Chandler Stevenson and Brandon Montour, and I don't think those are going to age well. And then you get to their goaltending where they have that Philip Grubauer contract. He's their guy now, right? With Joey Daccord out, Matt Murray, who came in and is playing very well. I just don't see this being sustainable in Seattle. I love it, but when you look at the star power and we go through the rosters and we go through what it takes to win in the NHL, I just don't see it here. I think they play well as a team and there is depth there, but I just think there's a ceiling above this team and I think that they're hitting it.
Not buying on the 3-0-1 record for Philip Grubauer. Interesting. But I'm kind of with you on Seattle. I'm maybe a little biased because I've been doubting them from the jump. So maybe it's just like I don't want to believe in them. So it's easier for me to poke holes. I'll go out east and throw a team your way. Where are you at on the Boston Bruins? I mean, they're getting good contributions from David Pastrnak. They're another team that's been hit hard with the injury bug down the middle. Like Marek Kuznetsov is holding down top line minutes for them as a center. That's, as much as he's a fun name to say, he's not a fun name to see at the top of your depth chart, Carter. They're banged up right now. The Charlie McAvoy thing kind of looms large. I feel like the Boston Bruins, even though some of the metrics are fine and encouraging, I feel like they might be a team that's just at some point they're going to lose 7 of 8 and we're just going to be like, yep, there it is.
Yeah, and they're a team that did that, right? They've been a bit Jekyll and Hyde, right? Started well, dropped a ton of games, then got on a winning streak. So I think that consistency factor I worry about, because when you think about good hockey teams and something that was always preached every locker room I ever played in is, good teams find a way to string wins together. And when you do lose one, you find ways to bounce back. And I do worry about this team, their depth, right? This is the repercussions of, years of trades and pushing to make cup finals and where they're at. And they have a few good young pieces there. Some guys that are getting good exposure, getting good minutes at the NHL level. But what I worry about is when teams start to get healthy and you look at, I guess Florida would be the one for me when they start to get healthy and they start nipping at your heels. If you haven't created enough separation at this point, when those teams, the big dogs in the Atlantic start coming, I just don't know if they can hold them off. So I'm with you there. I think Swayman's been good, but I don't know if he's good enough to carry this team all the way to the promised land this year.
Yeah, again, I'm not totally buying what the Bruins are putting down early on in the season here. It's interesting that a month in we're still sitting where we are, where only 6 teams are below 500. Be very curious to see what that number balloons to by December 18th. If we get a couple of teams who hot starts really, maybe go off the rails quicker than some people think. Let's get to our big segment. He's ready to go. It's Jeff Marek from The Sheet, and it's brought to you by Uber Eats. Always a pleasure to welcome in Jeff Marek. You drinking the Hater-ade on anybody at this point in the season, Jeff?
So let me just add a couple of things here. So with the Boston Bruins, you look at the points percentage. Like, they've played more games than anybody in the Atlantic. They're number one, but if you look at the top 3 and look at the points percentage, they are like they're 0.5. Okay, I think it's like 0.50, and then Detroit is 0.605, Montreal 0.605. Unlike all the other divisions, the lowest point percentage team is in first place. So to that point, I look at the Boston Bruins a little bit sideways. The thing about Seattle is, and I think that Lane Lambert's clearly in the discussion for Coach of the Year, for one thing specifically. Well, a couple. One, he's got this team in a playoff position. But the Seattle Kraken do one thing better than just about anybody that I've seen this year in the NHL, and that is they don't surrender odd man rushes. Like, watch a Seattle Kraken game and just count how many 2-on-1s there are against Seattle. It doesn't happen. Count how many 3-on-2. It doesn't happen. And this is like the turnaround quickly with the Seattle Kraken. And that is, make no mistake about it, all Lane Lambert. It's much different when you're a coach and Lou Lamoriello is your boss, as opposed to you're a coach and Lou Lamoriello is not your boss. That's not a knock on Lou. That's just how Lou's always operated. And, generally, even though it might have been decades ago, he was quite successful at it. I just think that Lane Lambert's done a great job with Seattle. And I have a couple of geeky favorite things to do when I watch hockey games. One, whenever I watch the Carolina Hurricanes, and I know that Slavin's out right now, but when Slavin's in the lineup, always trying to watch players put pucks under Slavin's stick, which is impossible. And I count how many odd man rushes. This is how much of a loser I am, guys. And I just count how many odd man rushes the Seattle Kraken release, because there aren't any. So I don't know where that puts me in the who am I hating, or who's a fraud, or what's fool's gold here, or who's a mirage. But that's my thoughts on those two teams right now.
To go to Seattle, there is a difference between good boring and bad boring when it comes to hockey, right? Seattle being very well structured, limiting chances and winning games that way is a lot different than a Calgary who loses their games in a boring way because they can't generate offense to save their lives.
Yeah. And there's another, there's really wildly successful, quote unquote, boring, and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, I like the way Carolina plays, but there's one specific vantage point that I think you have to watch Carolina in order to appreciate the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going to sound like such a snob here. Here I go. The Carolina Hurricanes are an acquired taste. If you're a hockey fan, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but they play an incredibly challenging system, right? We all know that Rod Brindamore likes playing man-to-man, which is why if you're not an athlete and you can't think quickly, there's no room for you there with the Carolina Hurricanes. That's why, K'Andre Miller was a really smart play by the Carolina Hurricanes. If you have a defenseman who's, going to cross-check someone into hell, there's no place for you with the Carolina Hurricanes. But if you can move your feet and you can think quickly, there's a spot for you with the Carolina Hurricanes. Considering they play man-to-man, if you sit up high in the stands to watch Carolina, it's almost a team where, Popcorn Row is the best view when you see what's happening. If you look at them from up on high, as soon as that system breaks down or there's a turnover, what happens is a ton of ice emerges. You forget how much actual ice there is out there because everybody's playing zone and looks like everything is clogged up. But when you're playing tight man on man, that's why they give up a lot of high danger chances, because when there's a turnover, players have 2 or 3 strides to get to the net, or there's a clean shot right away, which is why I look at it and I say it's an incredible tightrope that the Carolina Hurricanes are walking on. Sometimes it's bit them. A lot of times it's brought them a lot of success. But the one thing I do like about the Hurricanes is when that system breaks down, you kind of go, wow, look how much ice is out there. Where did all that ice come from? That's why I like Carolina.
No, I can see that. And I guess that's where I circle back to that Seattle point, Jeff, because of when he's a very well-coached team, right? Don't get me wrong. And I think that's something that's so important. But in a league that we play in nowadays, when that individual one-on-one talent comes into play, that's where I just think Seattle lacks compared to the teams that they're going to face if they do stay in the hunt, where that individual talent, like, again, like we talk about the Oilers, cup runs, right? The Panthers are the best complete team the last few years, but the Oilers have that individual talent. So when they do get those matchups, they create space and create scoring. And that's what I think the league is built on in a sense too.
And what can those guys do? Those guys have the ability to score an easy goal. Seattle grinds for all their goals. You know what it's like, Huts, when you're on a team and you have to, it takes everything to get a goal. Finally, we scored. And then the other team's got, Phil Kessel just comes down the wing and snaps one in like breaking sticks. And you're like, oh, God. Okay, back to the drawing board. Let's grind to get another goal. Man, that takes it out of you so much as a team. And I agree with you, Huts. That's the one thing one of the things that Seattle doesn't have. They don't have that explosive goal scorer. Edmonton's got 8 of them who can, and Roslovic's the most recent one, although they're not with, Edmonton's clearly not without their flaws. But yeah, having the ability to have a player that scores easy goals, it's just like a release valve up and down the bench. Everyone just goes oh, so nice to get an easy one that we didn't have to work for. That's one of the real luxuries in the NHL as a team, for sure.
I want to throw a stat your way, and it goes back to the point about parity in the NHL and how close everything is right now. Last year, take all 1,312 regular season games we got, 5.8 of them went to a shootout. This year, through 306 games, 9.15% of them are going to a shootout. Do you view that as a problem in the NHL, Jeff?
I like my game settled 5-on-5 or as close to 5-on-5 as possible. I'm actually the guy that when it comes to shootout would rather see the shootout at the beginning of a game so the tiebreaker is already set. That way, well, one of the major things is it feels like the game ends in hockey and not a skills competition. We can get into the psychology behind that if you want. But no, I think we're all on the same page that we want our games settled with capital H hockey, not lowercase h hockey / skills competition. But then again, so Jeff, I'm the guy that's fine with ties. I'm the guy that's fine with ties, though, too.
Yeah. No, again, I think I'm reflecting on my career again. I could play this unbelievable game and then lose in a shootout, and it just felt like this wasn't really hockey, awful. Right? And I get that point. Now, what I wanted to get to was the Champions League, right? Added in the rule that you can't go over and back, right? In overtime, right? This is something that came up today, and something I've been thinking about. Shot attempts have increased 51%, and in those games, 12
in Champions League, not in NHL, in Champions League,
not in the NHL,
good,
right?
Good. Right.
And 12% of those games increased that the game ends in overtime and doesn't get to a shootout because it forces a little more offense. What is your thoughts on that? Because I know we're not baseball, right? We're trying to stay up there. Is this something maybe we think we see? Because it's been a hot button issue for a while now.
I think it'll be discussed at the general managers meetings. Absolutely. Like everything else in hockey, coaches have found a way to wreck 3-on-3. Remember when 3-on-3 started? Remember that there was the first season of 3-on-3. There was a Detroit. It was Detroit and Ottawa game, which was just 5 minutes of sprints. It was still the best 3-on-3 game I have ever seen. It was incredible. Just exchanging chances, back and forth, exchanging chances. Now it's neutral zone regroups and wait for the perfect shot. Again, coaches ruin everything. Maybe, how about this for a rule for the 3-on-3? 60-minute stops. We get to the 3-on-3. All coaches have to leave the bench. How about that? Coaches aren't allowed to stand on the bench. Coaches have to leave. Beat it. Get to the hot towels first. So I saw this and I really, really do like it. And I like the fact that if you go back into the neutral zone, pass it back or skate it back, or even just a miff pass that goes back, the face-off comes back into your own zone. I like that a lot. And one of the reasons I like it so much, I think the face-off placement here is key if you sort of break the over and back rule. And this is something, I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this. This is something that I've been on for a couple of years, and I got it in my brain and I won't let it go. I don't think that outside of to start the period, and maybe not even that, or after a goal, we should never have a neutral zone faceoff. If the idea is to increase scoring chances, every faceoff should be in a scoring area, i.e. beside the goal. You go offside, puck's coming back into your zone. Something happens in the neutral zone and there's a whistle, you're not getting a neutral zone faceoff. The faceoff is either going to be beside your net or the other team's net. If we it's no man's land, guys. Like, neutral zone is a place to gather speed on a rush, and that's it. Why are we dropping pucks that far away from the net? And what do those face-offs generally produce? Like, if you're the offensive team and you win it, you still have to scramble, figure it out, and then still do the zone entry. Start with the puck beside the net and go from there. Shot attempts will go up, goals will go up, all of it. And you've just done a tiny tweak. And what have you taken away? A neutral zone face-off. Ooh, I can't wait to watch the Oilers and the Kings and all these neutral zone face-offs. This is going to be so exciting, as opposed to, I know every time there's a draw, it's going to lead to a scoring chance. Or I know a team's deep and they're going to have some pressure here. That's why I like what you're talking about that over and back in the Champions League, because the penalty for it is face-off comes back into your zone. I think we should do everything as a sport to get face-offs out of the neutral zone. I surrender the floor.
Well, so let me bring up, this is a point that our producer Pat made earlier this morning, but what if instead of fewer neutral zone faceoffs, what if we went towards fewer faceoffs and you get to 3-on-3 OT and it's no offsides, just pond hockey, just go? Wouldn't that also solve the problem while making it like less complicated for a new fan? Like, I think about a new fan sitting down to watch their first hockey game and it goes to 3-on-3 overtime, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, there's stuff that you over back. Like, what?
You want to go deeper on that one? I like it. Let's take the next step. Okay, this is good. Okay, Carter, you might want to cover your ears on this one. How about goalies aren't allowed to freeze the puck? Goalies have to play it. Keep it hot. We're playing 5 minutes, and outside a puck over glass, goalie's got to play that puck. You cannot freeze it. You cannot stop play. You catch it, that's great. You throw it behind you. You park it in front and you shoot it down the ice. You pass it to your player. Technically, hang on a second. Really? The goalie likes it. The goalie likes it, Tyler. So technically, that's the lay of game. Any other player does that. That's the lay of game. Yeah. Goalies get a free pass. If you want to keep things hot in the offensive zone, goalies can't freeze the puck. I'm cool with taking away blue lines. I'm cool with taking away lines altogether, because the size of the rink is not going to get any bigger. Like, the way that the new arenas are built, they're not built with the contingency of being able to expand quickly. I think that when we saw this, and I guess it started with probably Nationwide Arena, when the wave of new rinks came in the NHL, I always thought the league should have had, okay, for every new rink, it has to be built in that we have the potential to expand the rink if we need it. Not 200, 100 by international, but maybe like 292 like they do in Finland, maybe just a little bit more to the outside. But they didn't do that, and that's cool. So if we're not going to take any players off the ice, we're not going 4-on-4, it's going to be 5-on-5, and the rinks aren't going to get bigger, what do? How do you make more room out there? To me, there's only one thing you can do, and that's take away the lines. If we think it's a problem.
The goalie one's interesting because you're right, it'd be delay a game, but like then I feel like I go down that rabbit hole and I'm like, okay, but then do you need like a 5-foot buffer, like a kickoff in football, where like the offensive team needs to get he's just got to do something with it?
Yeah.
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 I just think
hang on. Let's hear from Carter's got skin in this game. Let's hear from Carter.
The only thing I do like it, I think, like getting it going, but then you just have to have a different stat line. I would want to eliminate. I hate OT goals against anyway, because the quality of chances is so high. I just think it skews the numbers. That'd be my only take, but man, it would be exciting. That's for sure.
Just as a fan, it's fun. Like, get rid of neutral zone faceoffs. OT goalies have to play it, or else it's delay a game. I don't know. We're all sort of spitballing here. Essentially, what we're trying to do is create a way to keep this thing away from the shootout.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is, I think,
completely keep this thing away from the shootout.
I know we're going long here, but like, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, well, the league would never change that drastically. And I get it, because when I hear like, oh, get rid of offsides in OT, I'm like, oh, that'd be a big stretch for the league. But like, why would they be willing to settle games in a shootout, but they wouldn't be willing to tinker with OT, right?
Shootout to end games is massive. And let's not forget here, one of the things, like, what's the greatest invention in sports in the last 25 years? Pitch clock.
Yeah.
How much better has pitch clock made baseball? It's night and day.
So,
and if
so
you
good.
can increase the pace of hockey and keep it a team sport as an individualized skill sport, i.e. shootout, isn't everything possible? Like the one thing that I hear, okay, so here's a conspiracy theory. The one thing that I've been thinking about too is I wonder how much Commissioner Bettman is leaving behind for the next commissioner, and whether Bill Daly is interim or full-time commissioner when Bettman decides to step down or take a different role, maybe as a consultant with the NHL, he's going to need some easy wins. And I do wonder how many easy wins, whether it's rejigging how the playoffs are done, for example, right? I mean, from every single corner, everyone is howling that they want the playoffs done differently. And Commissioner Bettman always keeps saying, it's fine, no problem. And then the next commissioner steps in, and the easy win to get everybody on his side is we're changing the way the playoffs are done. Hey, yeah. Right on. I think, though, I have a feeling that the whole thing, again, this is just the conspiracy theorist in me, that's an easy win for the next commissioner. I'm wondering how many other easy wins are going to be set up for whichever commissioner takes over the NHL next. Let's not forget, Bettman's been at this since 1993. Okay, and there have been a lot of this. We all know the economics of the game and how it's grown and what he's been able to do is remarkable, and on the ice as well. Now, a lot of that was through Brendan Shanahan, and I have a hard time believing that whatever the next regime is going to be in the NHL, that Brendan Shanahan is not going to be a part of it. But always in the back of my mind, guys, I'm like, what are the easy wins that are being set up here that fans want, the teams want, but aren't going to happen until there's a new commissioner, because that new commissioner is going to need some 2-foot putts, going to need some layups to show that he or she's going to be doing something new here. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's just my conspiracy brain, though.
Yeah,
you're right. A couple of gimmies, right?
Yeah, I love a good conspiracy, and I love a good segment with Jeff Marek that goes way longer than expected, because we get to good areas.
Sorry,
Jeff
boys.
coming up with the sheet at in about 27 minutes time. David Alter and Greg Wyshynski with you today.
Yes.
Appreciate you popping on.
Thanks.
Goalies, don't freeze the puck. Got it, Huts? Stop freezing the puck. See you, boys.
There you go. Big thanks to Jeff for joining us as always. Huts, let's get to a new segment we're doing on the show. It's called What Are You Craving? And it's brought to you by Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. And there are 8 games on tap tonight in the NHL, Carter. So let me ask you, which one of these 8 are you craving?
You know what? I am craving this Leafs-Blues matchup. 2 teams trending in the wrong direction. This is the game that I have eyes on. I like the Leafs. We're going to get to that, but this is the game that I'm ready for tonight, Ty.
I'm going to go with that Dallas-New York matchup. The Islanders roll into Dallas to take on a Stars team that is putting their 5-game winning streak on the line, the second longest active win streak right now in the league. But the Islanders, if you would have told me a month ago, hey, Tyler, you excited for Islanders Stars on a Tuesday night in November? No, because the Islanders have always been a bad kind of boring. But this year, they've been exciting. They have 61 goals through 19 games last year. That's 11 more than they had at this point last season. You know, over half a goal per game more is what the Islanders are putting up this year. They're playing an exciting brand of hockey, and they're playing a good team tonight in Dallas. So I'm excited for that one, and that should tie in nicely to our daily bets for this evening, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We are all wearing big old L's on the scoreboard once again. Tonight, I missed 2 shots by Brock Besser. Pat went with the homer pick. Bad idea. Always a bad idea. And the Kings, that's the surprising one looking at last night, Huts. I thought the Kings would beat the Caps as well.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know. Ovi did me in. He got enough on me. He hurt me again. He hurt me all the way sitting here, not even playing that Ovechkin, him and his scoring touch.
Let's get into tonight's picks. My shot prop parlay. I got a couple of guys who've been hitting at a pretty solid clip as of late. Alex DeBrincat has gotten at least 3 shots in 7 straight hockey games and has hit this mark in 17 of his 19 games so far this season. I'm playing it with Brandon Hagel to get to 3 shots as well. Now, he's only hit this in 3 of his last 5, but it's 12 of 17 on the year for Hagel. So play those 2 together at plus 183. Pat, what do you like?
Well, yeah, not so good last night for me with the Oilers money line. So we're going to keep it simple tonight. I'm going Connor Bedard anytime goal at plus 155. He's got 4 in his last 5 games. We're talking about Chicago versus Calgary today. Somebody has to score in this game, and I'm thinking it's going to be Connor Bedard. And honorable mention, I can't bet it yet because it's too early in the day. But Calgary has the 6th most shots in the league, and Chicago gives up the most shots against in the league. So maybe the Soderblom over, especially because I think Chicago's going to win this game, could be something to look at later today, but we'll keep an eye on that. Carter?
Ooh, the anytime goal. I like it, Patty. I'm going to go with the Toronto Maple Leafs in regulation. I think they answer the call. It was a spirited practice. Craig Berube held the other day with his team to try to get them going. The St. Louis Blues have struggled keeping the puck out of their net, so I feel like Toronto has been scoring. That hasn't been a problem. I look for Joseph Woll to be good tonight. Leafs in regulation. I love it, but who knows? This team is losing so much. You never know what's going to happen, but that's why we're betting on it, my man.
All right, there you go. Hut's taking the Leafs to bounce back. Let's wrap up the show now with a little bit of garbage time. And this from last night's broadcast, Rob Ray taking a shot at the Oilers goaltending. Let's take a listen.
Empty net. Sorry, Rob.
Go ahead.
Yeah, empty net for Edmonton.
Yeah, it has been most of the night, so it's a difference.
If I know ripping on Stuart Skinner and the Oilers is a very easy thing for other people to do. If you watched that game last night, and I think Rob Ray did, he was on the broadcast. That one wasn't on Stu. What did you make of the shot Rob Ray took there?
Well, you know what? I struggled with Rob Ray the 3 years I was there. I feel like sometimes he likes to err on the side of negativity when there's always, there's 2 sides to every play, right, Ty? There's a positive side where someone made a good play and someone made a mistake. Hockey's a game of mistakes. I'm more of a fan of the Darren Pang style, Kevin Weeks, where you can make it positive, you can spin it in a good light. So I don't like this, and it's really hard to beat down a guy that just went to 2 Stanley Cup finals when you've been with a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in 14 years. So I err on the side of positivity. So he took his shot. I see the humor in it, but I think it's ill-timed for sure.
That's as I was going to say, like, I see the humor in it, but last night the Buffalo Sabres had 4.35 expected goals, according to Money Puck. The empty netter doesn't count on Stuart Skinner. He wasn't there. They scored 4. They had more expected goals than they had actual goals. Like, if you watched that game last night, it wasn't on Stuart Skinner. It was on a whole bunch of other things. But again, his numbers this year, I understand by someone who doesn't pay a ton of attention to outside their market. It's a local broadcast there in Buffalo. Why you would feel like that's an okay shot to take, but yeah, see the humor in it. Thought it was a little weird. Don't love the negativity. Anyways, that's a wrap on our edition of the show, which is always filled with positivity. We'll be back tomorrow at noon Eastern with Steve Peters for another film breakdown. We'll see you all then. Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Marek, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.